What up guys, SuperMetal983 here bringing us another episode of Super Metal Recommendations, and this is episode 17. I thought, you know what, I've done quite a few album reviews over the past couple of months, and I came back to YouTube after my little hiatus and did a Super Metal Recommendations, so I thought, you know what, let's do another one and pick out a couple of releases that I feel like I should talk about and promote and urge you all to check out, because, you know, my favourite thing in doing these videos is that you guys check out some new music, and we have some not very well known releases here, but and stuff that I think personally people don't talk about enough. So, you know, that's the whole point of these videos, so let's get on with it. And the first one we're going to be talking about is some really sick death metal. And I absolutely love these guys and absolutely love this album, and I highly recommend it. But yeah, this is Dictated with their debut album entitled The Deceived. Now, this came out on Metal Blade Records back in 2014, so quite a few years ago. And I heard about these guys through like the European sort of death metal circuit. They were getting on quite a few festivals over there, and I was like, you know what, I'll have to check them out because they sound quite interesting. Like, you know, with the album cover with the sort of like basic sort of logo, like nothing too spiky, nothing too flash. It really intrigued us, so I checked it out back then, and this album absolutely destroyed me in 2014, and still to this day is, in my opinion, one of the best death metal albums on my phone and in my CD collection. It's just an absolute banger from beginning to end. It's got everything they can need from a solid death metal release. It's got the blast beats, it's got the heavy crushing guitar tone, the monstrous vocals, and it just has so many riffs on here, man. Like, absolutely adore listening to this album. When I want some really solid death metal, I do tend to go to this album, and it's a very underrated album if you ask me. I know they released their album, I believe it was just before lockdown, called Phobos, I believe it was called, and that was a solid album in itself, but it really ignited the spark again for this album, and I thought, you know what, when it comes to underground death metal, definitely check out Dictated, because they are one of my favourites in the underground, and I just hope that they make a return, because I believe it was during lockdown they announced that they were going on pretty much an indefinite hiatus, so I hope they return one day, because both albums are fantastic, but this album is an absolute mega masterpiece if you ask me. It's crushing and heavy. If you're into death metal, definitely be checking this one out. Fantastic stuff. Next up, we're going to go for some more well-known territory, and a band that I really wish, in light of all these bands that are coming back from the likes of Shadows Fall, God Forbid, and all these other bands bleeding through. I know they've not really been so inactive, but they're making another comeback. But these guys, I really want to see these guys make a return. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about the band Chimaira, and Chimaira are one of my all-time favourite bands, and I felt like I should talk about them in a video. And I decided to pull out kind of the oddball release in their discography, and I'll explain why, along with another album, but anyway. But this is Pass Out of Existence, their debut album. Now, a lot of people may think, why is that an oddball album? I would say that oddball albums in their discography would definitely be their last album that they did, which was called Crown of Phantoms, which, in my opinion, absolutely fantastic album. But the other oddball I would say is this one, because this one sounds, in my opinion, it stands out amongst their discography, because the rest of their discography is that typical, as it's come to be known, the new wave of American heavy metal, sort of groove metal mixes with metalcore influence and stuff like that. Whereas this album is, in my opinion, a straight up new metal album with some groove metal influence. And for back then, back when was this out? This came out in 2001, when new metal was a massive thing, obviously. But this album, in my opinion, over the years has stuck out from that period because it has the notorious heavy riffage behind there. Like, this is an absolute banger from beginning to end. It's not your typical new metal sound. It has grit, it has attack behind it, and a lot of aggression. And that is one thing that I've always took from this album when it comes to the new metal era. Is like, oh, Chimaira did something unique back then. Just like, obviously Slipknot did their thing with unique and just creating utter aggression and just animosity in their sound and experimenting with, you know, like the drums and stuff like that. But Chimaira did something very similar in a similar sort of way, if you ask me. And I mean, the songs, SP Lit is one of my favourite songs of Chimaira, but also my favourite song of Chimaira will always be Severed, the third track. It's a simple, heavy as fuck track, and when it gets to that repetitive bit where it's just saying the album title over and over again, it never lets up. It doesn't get fucking boring. It just impacts you right, left, and just never lets go until the end of the song. But oh my god, I absolutely love this album, and I personally feel like listening to this album back, I can kind of hear how this album kind of influenced the overall sound of new metalcore nowadays. I can really hear it across this entire album, and call us crazy, a lot of people from that genre may not have heard of this album, but listen to this album if you are in that genre and tell me that this didn't start that sort of wave. That's what I think anyway. But honestly, this album's absolutely fantastic and an absolute classic, and I just want Chimaira to return and play some shows because I want to hear this shit live. I nearly saw them back in the day. It was literally a week or two before the split up, which was absolutely heartbreaking because they'd already rescheduled the tour. But anyway, that's that. Anyway, so we're going to go into some more filthy death metal territory, and from Europe once again we have Izegrim with Congress of the Insane. Yeah, for all me clown fearing subscribers, I don't apologise. Anyway, this album for me was another album from around that sort of time period when I discovered Dictator. This one came out in 2013, so a year prior. But I'm sure I discovered it at the same time because I think they were on a festival together. And I think Infidelamsterdam talked about them, so I was like, oh, I'll check out both bands. But anyway, this album is kind of different to Dictator though. This is more of a thrashy death metal sort of release, but I will say that this album is fucking incredible from beginning to end. This is an absolute riff monster. Like, it doesn't have a lot of blast beats orientated around it. It's more falls into sort of groove and thrash territory, but it doesn't let up on the diabolical intensity that is withheld on this record. Like, in my personal opinion, like, this album it's an album that I do go part ways with for a little bit and then come back to, and when I come back to it, I'm just like, holy shit. I honestly, even when I read like the thrash death metal sort of stuff, I think of traditional thrash meets death metal, like say Possessed and early death sort of stuff, which sometimes the traditional sort of stuff doesn't really appeal to me in some ways, but this one really surprises us every fucking time that I pick it up because it's just meaty as fuck. And then the vocal department is some of the most monstrous vocals I have heard in death metal. Like, it reminds us a lot, and surprise, surprise, of Angela Gosco, formerly of Arch Enemy. That really just throat-wrenching gargle and just intensity and just so commanding. It really falls into that sort of category, and it really delivers. So if you haven't heard Izegrim with Congress of the Insane, they released another album after this, which I do have somewhere. The Ferryman's End, yeah. That was a good album as well, but this album was just where it was at with just intensity and just riffs. I absolutely love this record, and if you want some riffs, this is definitely a record that you need to hear. I don't hear a lot of people talking about them. I know they released that album, they released an EP as well, and once again, I think they've gone either split up or gone on an indefinite hiatus. So I hope they return as well, because that record is incredible, and they are an incredible, incredible band. Excuse me. Been singing non-stop today, so you might hear us sniffling quite a bit. But anyway, next up we have another album from the legend himself, Joey Jordison. And I talked about Sincerem in my last Super Metal recommendations, and that album is absolutely incredible. Make sure you check out my Super Metal recommendations playlist as well, link down below of where you can check it out. All the other episodes, I've talked about so many releases. And this album is an album that me guitarist sent us a song of them, which was, I'll tell you who it is first. It's Scar the Martyr, his project that he did after he parted ways with Slipknot. And me guitarist, we were talking about like some songs or something, like ideas for a song, whatever. And he was like, oh, I would love to do a song that introduces like the song, what was it? Bloodhorse. And I was like, alright, send it over. I've listened to Scar the Martyr before, but just vaguely remember what they sound like. And he sent over the song, and I was like, holy fucking shit. That's what Scar the Martyr sounded like. I don't know what they sounded like from my memory, I don't know, but listening to that song, I was like, I need to go back and listen to it. And I had this on CD just hovering in my collection, and I put this on straight away after that and listened to the album, and it became a song, an album and a song that I just listened to relentlessly throughout this year, and it is an absolutely fantastic album. Like, after Joey Jordison left Slipknot, I was hoping he would get into another project. I know he was in Sincerem and stuff like that, but I wanted him to do some more groovy stuff and show what he can do behind the kit. Like, his work in Slipknot, we all know and love it for his groove and his intricate parts, and this is another great representative of what Joey Jordison can do behind the kit. It's an absolutely fantastic. It's kind of like, I would describe it as like an industrial groove metal sort of thing. It's like, it's very dark, very sinister sounding. It's not very mechanical in its sound, like Fear Factory, for example. It just has its own unique sort of entity to it. It's very low tune, it's very boomy, but it is so gritty and just feels it feels really unique to listen to. Like, I haven't heard a record that sounds like this in a long fucking time. Like, it sounds meaty and chunky and groovy, and I absolutely love it. I am a sucker for some great groove metal, and this is an absolutely incredible album. I'm just sad. I'm really sad that this is the only album that the band released, because I know they were planning a UK tour, or did a UK tour, and then pretty much everyone parted ways with each other sort of thing, and then Joey Jordison joined Vimic, I think it was, and I listened to that, and it's pretty cool, but it's not Scar the Martyr in my opinion, so it's kind of like a one-hit wonder album, if you ask me, or one album wonder, you could say, but I think that perfectly describes this album. I think it's absolutely fantastic, but if you haven't heard it before, I'd be very surprised if you have, if you haven't, so make sure you check it out, absolutely incredible. And what is it, Bloodhorse is in my Super Metal Riffs for Days playlist, which is linked down below, where you can check it out on Spotify, give it a follow. I'm always updating it with new and old songs, so check it out if you haven't already. I think there's like fucking 13 or 16 hours worth of music in there, so it's just an album playlist that you can just shove on shuffle. Check out some new jams that I'm listening to if you're into that. So anyway, the final recommendation we're going to be talking about, I've decided to go local, because I feel personally I don't promote a lot of the really underground bands, like especially ones from my community, the Northeast Metal and Core community, and there's a lot of bands I want to shout out over future Super Metal recommendations and what have you. But I feel like this one is definitely justified, because these guys, they went on to play Bloodstock with us in this year, 2022, because we won and they ended up getting there. So we played the, my band Cast and Tephra, we ended up playing the New Blood stage, but these guys got picked to play the Jaeger stage, which I was so fucking buzzed about them. And just before Bloodstock, like a week before, we played a show with them, and they released their debut album that day. And then when I got back from Bloodstock, they had CDs available, so I had to get it. And this is in my album of the year list. It's up in the top 10. It's just fucking incredible. And I'm talking about the boys in Boz with Fury of Pegāna, which is this album. If you're into down, crowbar, or just sheer fucking riffs, this is a record that you need to hear in 2022. Like, this album to me is just absolute vibes from beginning to end. Like, there is not a bad or sour or dull moment on this album. It's just riffs, catchy, memorable hooks, and just a fun, enjoyable time. Like, and also at the same time, it is heavy as fucking balls. Like I said, if you're a fan of Crowbar, if you love Kirk's riff writing and just heavy chunk, this is up there. But if you like the southerny sort of sludgy sort of vibes that you get from Down, you'll love this shit. Like, I absolutely love this. And also, I don't know if the guys in Balls know about this band, but Twitching Tongues, they are one of my favourite bands, hence why I've got the album In Love There Is No Law tattooed on us. I really get those sort of vibes from this. It sounds fucking mega, and I absolutely adore this record. Like, it's only 6 tracks, but from beginning to end, it is just riffs galore. Like, it's absolutely incredible. I would rate this, honestly, a 10 out of 10 record. It's just such a fun release. And I'm going to send massive love to all the guys in Boz. The 4 of them are just absolute quality musicians and some of the best dudes on the fucking planet. I love those guys so much. We've played with them, I think, at least 4 or 5 times this year. And every time I'm just left with a sore neck and just in awe at them. So if you ever get a chance and you're in the UK, definitely check them out. Or even if you're not from the UK, give them a message, check them out, and buy a CD, buy a shirt. They are absolutely incredible. When I get paid, I'm definitely going to be getting a shirt of these guys. But anyway, this record is fucking incredible. And I will say as well, thanks to the guys for signing it. I always love getting, especially smaller bands. There's just something special about getting smaller bands to sign their CD. But make sure you check us out. It's absolutely incredible. I think my favourite song that I just can't get enough of is Preacher, Chaunt, just all the songs, but Preacher is definitely one of my favourite songs of this year. So yeah, that's 5 releases for you to check out, so I'll quickly run down them. So we started with Dictated with The Deceived, some really sick death metal from Europe. Then we've got Chimaira's debut album, Pass Out of Existence, a classic. You know it, you love it, and if you don't, be familiar. Then we've got Izegrim with Congress of the Insane, some really thrashy death metal, but really chunky, as we should like it. Then we've got Scar the Martyr, self-titled. Rest in peace, Joey Jordison. This is an absolutely incredible, incredible album, and definitely a gem in the underground. Call it underground, call it mainstream, whatever you want. And then finally, Boz with Fury of Pegāna, just some local filth and just riffs. Absolutely fucking incredible. I may have noticed my camera going out of focus a little bit on there. I'm going to have to look into that. But yeah, thanks again, guys. Make sure you subscribe and give a like on the video. You know, subscribe, check out my Super Metal Riffs for Days playlist. Check out other Super Metal recommendations. You know, support my channel, and everyone who has supported my channel in 2022. You know, I took this little break at the start, and I felt like I needed to do that, just to step back away, recuperate myself, revive myself, and then come back when my passion for YouTube was there, and I'm back. I'm doing videos again, and it's all thanks to every one of you out there. Honestly, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. More videos are going to be coming for the rest of the year. Well, rest of the year. We've got my top albums video coming very soon, and then we'll go into 2023 with a new mindset and a new attitude. So let's see what happens next year. But yeah, I'll see you until next video, and remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.